In our fast-paced, technology-driven society, elderly people can often feel a little left behind. But when one senior citizen from California encountered a bureaucratic problem at his bank, it required a heroic police officer to save the day. And his actions were truly heartwarming. A 92-year-old man walked into his local Bank of America branch one day in September 2017, hoping to withdraw some money from his account. His name was Jesus Rangel and he lived in Montebello, a city in the county of Los Angeles, California. Unfortunately for Rangel, it wasn't such a straightforward procedure. What should have taken just a couple of minutes ended up becoming a real headache for the elderly gentleman. There was an important reason why the bank clerk couldn't carry out his request, however. In fact, Rangel's request to withdraw money from his account was refused due to something painfully simple. He thought that he'd brought along everything that he would need to get some cash out, but it turned out that he hadn't. That's because his California ID card had expired. And as the important identification document was out of date, the employee behind the counter at that particular Bank of America branch was unable to process the withdrawal. Unfortunately, it was company policy. Rangel became frustrated with the bank clerk. He was unhappy that he had been told he couldn't get money out of his own account because of something as seemingly trivial as an expired ID card. But the clerk's hands were tied, he had to adhere to the company's rules. Nonetheless, the elderly gentleman wasn't prepared to go down without a fight. Things became so heated in the bank, in fact, that somebody eventually called the police to report a disturbance. There was no denying that Rangel was deeply upset about the situation. And soon enough, the cops were on their way to deal with the situation. But when officers from Montebello Police Department arrived on the scene, they decided that reprimanding Rangel was not the best course of action. Instead, they had another idea, and it was a far better one. One cop in particular, Officer Robert Josette, was very sympathetic towards Rangel, who was clearly in distress. So, Josette decided that the best thing to do would be to try to help the senior citizen. And first of all, the intuitive officer offered to drive Rangel somewhere. The police officer suggested that he drive Rangel down to the Department of Motor Vehicles, DMV, in order to renew his ID card. Josette knew that by doing so, Rangel would then be able to return to the bank and finally complete his withdrawal. So, off they went to the DMV. And before long, they had renewed Rangel's ID card and were back in the car, with only one destination in mind, the bank. Having successfully replaced the relevant identification card, Rangel was all set to try again to get hold of his money. Once they arrived back at the bank, Rangel tried to start the withdrawal process once more. And this time, thankfully, things went much better for him. Indeed, he was able to take cash out from his account with no problems, and it was all thanks to one particularly compassionate police officer. Officer Josette had shown incredible kindness by taking Rangel down to the DMV to help him sort out the issue. Plenty of people might have dismissed the 92-year-old as a grumpy old man. But Josette instead took Rangel under his wing and saved the day. And the senior citizen was very grateful indeed. After successfully retrieving his money, he said a heartfelt thank you to the kind officer before carrying on with his day. That wasn't the end of the story by any means, however. Soon, in fact, news of the incident spread thanks to social media. The Montebello Police Department subsequently posted the story onto their Facebook page, along with a photograph of Rangel being helped by an officer. It didn't take long for the post to attract attention, and soon it had been liked more than 260,000 times. The comments just kept on coming too. It seemed that lots of people were impressed with Officer Josette's actions that day. After all, he had gone above and beyond his duty in the compassion that he had shown to a man in need of help. Somebody wrote that Josette was a very kind officer, adding that it was a sweet thing to do. Others even went as far as calling the cop a saint. The officer was heavily praised for the emotional intelligence that he displayed too. All this little grandpa wants is to keep his independence. And the officer helped him in a dignified manner. Good job, officer, one Facebook user commented. It was clearly very good PR for the police department as well. Yay Montebello PD, read one post by someone who was clearly touched by the story. We need more stories like this to show the people that not all police officers are bad and that they go above and beyond their regular duties to help everyone, another comment stated. It may be true that the bank clerk could benefit from some sensitivity training when dealing with elderly customers, as one person suggested. But it's clear that the police officer involved didn't need any such help. Indeed, his actions that day indicated that he'd been well trained to protect and serve his community.